I want to start with a number that I believe every adult over 65 in America deserves to hear: 73%. That is the estimated proportion of older adults in the United States who are not getting enough of the nutrient I am covering today. Nearly 3 out of 4 seniors. And the reason this number matters so profoundly is that this particular nutrient is not involved in one or two biological processes. It is a coactor in over 300 enzymatic reactions throughout the body. It regulates the electrical activity of the heart. It governs the way neurons communicate and protect themselves from damage. It controls how your blood vessels dilate and constrict. It determines how effectively your muscles contract and recover. And research published just 2 years ago from the Australian National University, one of the most significant nutritional neuroscience studies of the past decade, found that older adults with optimal levels of this nutrient had measurably larger brain volume, fewer white matter lesions, and significantly better cognitive test scores than those who were deficient. The researchers estimated the cognitive protection associated with optimal levels of this nutrient was equivalent to preventing approximately 1 year of brain aging. We are talking about magnesium, not the vitamin your doctor has been telling you to take for years, not the supplement with the most marketing behind it, the mineral that most seniors have quietly become deficient in without a single symptom telling them it is happening and without a single standard blood test catching it before serious consequences accumulate. I'm Dr. Matthew Carter. This channel exists to bring you the evidence that changes how you understand your own health, not the evidence that is most convenient for a 15-minute appointment. Subscribe if you haven't already, because what I am covering today touches almost every major health concern that adults over 65 face simultaneously. Let me begin with why magnesium deficiency is so specifically and silently prevalent in older adults, because the mechanism explains why the standard approach to nutrition after 65 so consistently misses it. Magnesium absorption from food and supplementation decreases progressively with age due to documented changes in gut function, specifically the reduction in intestinal magnesium transporters that occurs with advancing age. At the same time, the kidneys of older adults excrete more magnesium than younger kidneys do, creating an accelerated loss of the mineral even when dietary intake remains constant. 2 common categories of medication worsen this deficit significantly. Proton pump inhibitors, the omeprazole, Nexium, and Pylock that I covered in an earlier video, have an FDA black box warning specifically about hypomagnesemia in long-term users. Diuretics, which millions of seniors take daily for blood pressure and heart failure management, increase renal magnesium excretion dramatically. The result is a population that is absorbing less magnesium, losing it more rapidly, and simultaneously taking medications that accelerate that loss while consuming a diet that is already lower in magnesium-rich foods than previous generations ate. And the standard serum magnesium blood test, the one occasionally ordered at routine appointments, catches only the most severe end of this deficit. The vast majority of your body's magnesium is stored inside cells and in bone, not circulating freely in blood. A serum level that appears normal or low normal may correspond to a meaningful intracellular deficiency that the blood test cannot see. Now, let me walk you through what the research shows magnesium actually does in the aging body, because the breadth of its documented effects is what makes this deficiency so consequential. The cardiovascular effects of optimal magnesium status are among the most robust findings in nutritional medicine. Magnesium is essential for the maintenance of normal heart rhythm. It acts as a natural calcium channel blocker in cardiac muscle cells, regulating the electrical impulses that govern the heartbeat and preventing the kind of erratic calcium influx that drives arrhythmias. A comprehensive meta-analysis published in the European Heart Journal found that higher dietary magnesium intake was associated with a 22% lower risk of ischemic heart disease and a 7% lower risk of stroke per 100 milligrams per day of additional magnesium. That dose-response relationship is a hallmark of genuine biological causation, not coincidence. In the context of blood pressure specifically, a subject I have covered extensively on this channel, magnesium acts as a natural vasodilator. It relaxes the smooth muscle cells lining blood vessel walls, reducing peripheral resistance and lowering systolic pressure. A randomized controlled trial published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that magnesium supplementation in adults with hypertension produced an average reduction of 5.6 millimeters of mercury in systolic pressure and 2.8 millimeters of mercury in diastolic pressure. Those reductions are clinically meaningful, and they occur through a mechanism that is entirely complementary to and does not interfere with standard antihypertensive medications. Now let me tell you about the brain research because this is where the most striking recent findings are concentrated and where I believe the conversation about magnesium needs to urgently shift. The 2023 study from the Australian National University that I mentioned at the start was published in the European Journal of Nutrition and examined over 6,000 cognitively healthy adults between the ages of 40 and 73. The researchers found that higher dietary magnesium intake was associated with larger total brain volume, larger gray matter volume, and significantly fewer white matter lesions, the small areas of vascular damage in brain tissue that are both a consequence of cardiovascular disease and a direct predictor of future cognitive decline and dementia. Critically, the protective association was stronger in women than in men and was most pronounced in adults over 60, the age group where the physiological changes that accelerate both magnesium depletion and brain aging are most active simultaneously. The lead researcher stated that the findings suggested increasing magnesium intake through diet or supplementation from middle age onward could be an important strategy for maintaining brain health and reducing dementia risk as populations age. Now I want to address the muscle and mobility dimensions specifically, because for many seniors this is where the consequences of magnesium deficiency are most immediately felt in daily life, even when the connection to magnesium is never identified. Magnesium is required for muscle relaxation. Calcium drives muscle contraction. Magnesium drives muscle release. When magnesium is insufficient relative to calcium, a common consequence of the modern diet and aging-related magnesium depletion, muscles cannot fully relax. The results are nocturnal leg cramps, the kind that wake adults over 65 suddenly and painfully in the middle of the night, persistent muscle tightness and tension that does not respond well to stretching. Chronic fatigue that feels muscular in character rather than purely neurological, and paradoxically increased fall risk because muscles that cannot relax fully cannot coordinate movement as precisely as properly mineralized muscles can. A randomized trial published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society found that magnesium supplementation in older adults with low serum magnesium levels significantly reduced the frequency of nocturnal leg cramps compared to placebo within 6 weeks of daily supplementation. Sleep quality is the fourth dimension of magnesium's effects that deserves specific attention after 65. Magnesium regulates the activity of GABA receptors in the brain, the same inhibitory neurotransmitter receptors targeted by benzodiazepines and certain sleep medications, but through a gentler, physiologically appropriate mechanism. It also suppresses the release of cortisol and helps regulate the circadian rhythm signals that govern the timing and quality of sleep architecture. A study published in the Journal of Research in Medical Sciences found that magnesium supplementation in elderly adults with insomnia produced statistically significant improvements in sleep efficiency, total sleep time, early morning awakening frequency, and serum levels of both melatonin and cortisol compared to placebo. The connection between magnesium and sleep is not indirect or speculative. It runs through documented biochemical pathways that are specifically relevant to the sleep difficulties that tens of millions of seniors have been told are simply part of aging. Let me now be precise about the form of magnesium that matters, because this is where most supplementation attempts fail. The magnesium in the cheapest and most widely available supplements is magnesium oxide, the form found in most drugstore multivitamins and many standalone magnesium tablets. Magnesium oxide has a documented bioavailability of approximately 4%. That means for every 500 milligrams you swallow, your body absorbs roughly 20 milligrams. The remainder passes through the gut and acts primarily as a laxative, which is why high-dose magnesium oxide supplementation consistently causes diarrhea and is often abandoned. The forms of magnesium that deliver meaningful systemic bioavailability are magnesium glycinate, which is bound to the amino acid glycine, and has excellent absorption with minimal gastrointestinal side effects and additional calming properties from the glycine component. Magnesium malate, which is particularly well suited for adults experiencing muscle fatigue and pain, and magnesium threonate, which has documented ability to cross the blood-brain barrier and is showing the most promising results in the specific context of cognitive function and neuroproction in older adults. A pilot study from MIT examining magnesium 3-EN8-ATE supplementation in older adults with mild cognitive impairment found significant improvements in cognitive test scores after 12 weeks of supplementation, with the researchers noting changes in synaptic density that suggested genuine neurological restoration rather than simply symptom management. Here's exactly what to do with this information. First, Do not start any magnesium supplementation without telling your doctor, particularly if you take blood pressure medications, antibiotics, diuretics, or diabetes medications. Magnesium interacts with several of these drug classes, and those interactions must be managed appropriately. Second, ask your doctor to check your serum magnesium level at your next blood draw. A level at the low end of the normal range is meaningful and actionable even without frank deficiency. Third, increase dietary magnesium alongside supplementation. The richest accessible sources for seniors are dark leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, almonds, black beans, avocado, dark chocolate above 70% cacao, and fatty fish, including salmon and mackerel. Fourth, if your doctor agrees supplementation is appropriate, begin with magnesium glycinate at 200 to 300 milligrams taken in the evening with food. The evening timing aligns with magnesium's sleep-supportive effects and reduces gastrointestinal sensitivity. Fifth, track your response over 6 to 8 weeks across 3 specific areas: sleep quality and nocturnal leg cramps, morning energy on a scale of 1 to 10, and home blood pressure readings if you monitor regularly. 8 weeks of consistent tracking gives you and your physician something concrete and specific to evaluate together. Comment below with one of 3 responses. Comment starting magnesium if you are going to discuss this with your doctor and begin supplementation. Comment already taking it if you are already on magnesium and want to share what form and what changes you have noticed. Or comment, want the full list if you want a dedicated video on the complete set of evidence-based supplements for cognitive and cardiovascular protection in adults over 65. I read every comment. I'm Dr. Matthew Carter. Subscribe now. Next week, I am covering the 3 cardiovascular warning signs that appear in your hands and feet years before a cardiac event and are almost universally overlooked at routine appointments. Take good care of yourself. The most powerful tools for protecting your brain and heart after 65 are often the ones nobody is marketing loudly enough for you to hear.